Have you seen some of the latest and greatest interior design trends from 2025? I think some of these are absolutely stunning, but then some of these are gonna be quietly ruining your space. From fluted paneling to mismatched patterns to the return of Ruffles, this year brings a return of very bold choices, but not all of them are working out. My name's Carrie, a designer here at Penny Modern, and today I'm sharing with you 5 of the worst interior design trends from 2025, as well as 5 of the best interior design trends from 2025. These are just my personal opinions. You can think what you want. Let's make sure we comment and debate down in the comments below, and let's hit it. We're gonna start with one of the worst trends that has come about this year. It actually started during 2020, 21, it started gaining speed, and that is this trend that's called cottage core. Now, if you don't know what cottage core is, it's like dressing your house like you would a little cottage that maybe your grandma had, and there's lots of florals, and there's lots of something that reminds me of my bedroom as a child, and that would be Ruffles. There is this return to this romantic movement that Ruffles has brought, and you're seeing Ruffles everywhere, from almost Ruffles where they might belong, which would be like a curtain or maybe a dust ruffle under your bed, or maybe it's a ruffled lampshade. You're also even seeing ruffled lampshades on pendant lights, and then you also have homes that are they're looking almost like a costume that's looking tired with all these ruffles everywhere. Even they're putting ruffles underneath a sink to hide some of your cleaning supplies under your kitchen sink. And I just think it's something that belongs in the past. That is my personal opinion. I do like a ruffle, like on my clothing. Like these are a ruffled edge on my shirt, and I think that's really pretty. But do I want it in my house? Heck no. I am not alone in this opinion. Designer Nicole Hollis nailed it in Architectural Digest, where she said, we're not in a Jane Austen novel here. Romantic doesn't have to mean regressive. We can move on and we can evolve. The problem with having ruffles and a ruffle overload all over your space, it's not just about the softness that it's adding, which is great, it's the excess, and it's this feeling of just too much. And it's if every item in your space is adorned with some kind of a ruffle on it, your space just starts to lose definition. It also feels like a movie set or like a themed room, and that's not something that ages very well. And I am for adding a vintage element to your space, but you can do this in a lot of ways, not just ruffles. You could add maybe a couple throw pillows that have ruffles on it, and that's something that you could change out very easily if you get tired of it. You also could add different types of vintage elements, something like an antique mirror or a hand-stitched quilt. I do love the softness that ruffles can bring. You can add that in other ways, and you can do softer color palettes with muted colors or maybe pastel. Let me know though in the comments below, ruffles, do you love them? Do you hate them? Let us know in the comments below. Let's debate it. This next one that I think is one of the worst trends of 2025 also could be a little controversial because we're seeing it in a lot of luxury homes right now, and that is a wall treatment called lime wash. So lime wash is basically a painting technique that has been around for centuries. Now, you are seeing it in a ton of places. There's all kinds of lime wash painting kits you can get, and a lot of designers really love it because it adds texture to your walls, but it's not too striking or bold. It also looks very rustic and organic, and having those organic materials is definitely very in right now. And on Instagram, it definitely photographs beautifully. But here's one of the issues. We're definitely starting to see it absolutely everywhere, and it's getting played out. And it really reminds me of that sponge painting technique from the 80s that my mom did in our house that I had growing up. Yep, I grew up in the 80s, and it literally looks like sponge painting if it's not done right. Am I right? And here is the other issue that I have with lime wash. It can absorb the light and it can make your room and walls look muddy, and you don't really want to have a muddy look to your walls, right? What should you do instead? I do think if you really love kind of those ancient techniques, maybe one that might be a little bit better would be a Roman clay, and that could give you a better long-lasting, more timeless appeal to your home. Because like I said, I feel that lime wash is go away the way of the sponge painting techniques from the 80s. And then if you also wanted maybe that moody effect or maybe more natural looking, you could try lime wash in a smaller room. If you wanted to try it, maybe doing a lime wash technique on a huge canvas and putting it on the wall, and it's an abstract art piece. That way you could have that element in your room, but it is something that you could remove very easily if you get sick of it. Here is one of the next worst trends that I think is happening here in 2025, and that is just this white, light, pale, bleached wood everything. At one point, we all embraced that light oak or white oak wood tone because it definitely was a reaction against the gray that we saw everywhere for quite some time. It definitely warmed up a room, and it also made your room look very light and bright and airy. It was also definitely a breath of fresh air compared to some of the very darker wood tones that we saw in the 2010s. But now we have hit peak white oak, I guess I would say. And now we are seeing literally white oak or a bleached wood look literally everywhere, from your flooring to the cabinets to your accessories. And it's too much, and it makes everything look very washed out and one-dimensional. Then also you have some of these darker elements, like maybe you have a black light fixture or a lamp, and it's so jarring against that white oak that it just adds a little bit too much contrast to a room, and it can make a space feel a little bit cluttered, as well as that it doesn't really all go together. My advice is definitely to mix your wood tones, look at your undertones, match things in terms of undertones. If you have warmer woods and that light oak has some warm undertones to it, mix that with a darker or medium wood. And then also you can do cooler wood undertones, but just try to have the undertones match. And then basically you would have a mixture of both light and dark in terms of your wood tones, and that is going to be a far better bet than just having white oak everything. Trend number 4 that I think is definitely on its way out, or one of the worst trends, is this trend of these highly matched patterns. And specifically, mismatched patterns that absolutely clash. Pattern mixing can look absolutely amazing when it's done right. It is very difficult to do right. You can make your home look like you're a layered Parisian apartment, or maybe you really want to try that maximalist trend, but the issue is getting those mixed pattern right is a big challenge if you're not an interior designer that's catering to celebrities. What I'm talking about is having these checkerboard rugs, maybe mixed with tribal curtains and then floral throw pillows, and none of it is a cohesive story. It's all just mismatched patterns that are going everywhere in all different colors. And the problem is your eye just doesn't know where to land when it has all these competing things to look at, and it makes your room feel chaotic, and it just looks very cluttered. Here are some tips that you can use to match some patterns. So you want to choose one bold, dominant pattern as your anchor for the room. This could be a rug, or maybe it is a large scale graphic or curtains. Then you want to share a couple of those colors, at least one, preferably 2 colors from that large pattern into a very small pattern. So like a tiny floral or a tiny geometric print, right? So you have a smaller pattern and a large scale pattern, but they have at least 2 of the same colors. Then you want to include some neutral breathing room pieces. So you don't want to have a purple, yellow, and blue pattern over here, and then you have red furniture, right? So you want to have some neutral furniture to go with that is going to give more cohesion to the room and provide a neutral backdrop for you to play with these patterns on top of it. You also can mix patterns that are in the same kind of group of tones. You could mix something like a terracotta with a beige as well as a rust color, and having different tones of the same color family, and that way you're going to have a more cohesive look to your room. Trend number 5 that I think is one of the worst for 2025 is actually fluting. So I'm talking about fluting as well as slatted panels. I just think it's becoming completely overdone and it's out of control, people. Fluting and slat detailing can be quite beautiful, and they definitely add tons of texture as well as visual interest to a room. And that is why they've become so popular. We're just seeing it completely overdone. You're seeing an entire room being done in these wooden slat walls. You're also seeing everything from the fluted island to fluted consoles to fluting behind the TV, as well as slat panelings throughout the entire home or in the bathroom. And it's just becoming too much fluting, too much ribbing, and it's also very difficult to maintain. It also can be very expensive as well as very expensive to replace. If you just love this trend and you have to have it in your house, try to limit it to one piece. Maybe it is a entryway table or a cabinet, or maybe it's a coffee table with some around the base. Try to limit it to maybe one item in your room to add that visual interest, and be prepared if it does go out of style, which it probably will very soon. It's something that you can change out pretty easily when the trend goes away. Okay, so here are the 5 best interior design trends of 2025 so far. But first, if you're liking this video, hit that like button. And if you want more on affordable home decor, as well as design ideas and design trends, hit subscribe, because that's what we're all about here at Penny Modern. One of the best trends that we're seeing right now is about warm minimalism. So in the past few years, we have seen a ton of minimalism, especially when it comes to luxury home decor. And I would say it definitely can feel very cold and very sterile because there's just a lot of smooth surfaces. There's not a lot of accessories and decor. And now we're seeing something that is called warm minimalism, and I'm going to explain what that is. This new type of minimalism is definitely about creamier colors, beiges, not the cool grays. So that is one of the differences. Then there's all these organic textures that are linen, clay, ceramic, and warm woods. You're also going to see very soft lighting, as well as imperfect shapes, as well as more softer shapes. Warm minimalism can also go really well with things like vintage pieces, or maybe you have a beautiful ceramic piece that was handmade. These handmade pieces, it can definitely go very well with that to give more of a wabi sabi vibe to your home. And that is where you embrace imperfection, but you still don't have a ton of clutter in your space. And that will give you that warm minimalism look. This next design trend that I think is one of the best for 2025 is really about timeless design style and quiet luxury. So this is where you're getting very high quality pieces, but maybe not having so many of them in your room. A lot of people have a reaction against fast furniture and furniture that's not very well made, that's very inexpensive, and they're sick of their furniture breaking, and they're into splurging on better, well-made pieces, and that way they're getting that quiet luxury vibe to their house. These are those natural materials that are going to be longer lasting and very timeless, such as linen, as well as stone and wool and wood. And these are going to be these neutral color palettes, such as a sand, a camel, an ivory, and using those beautiful earthy and neutral brown tone color palettes in your home. The reason why I love this is because it does give a very timeless quality to your home, And that way it's not going to age out or look bad in a few years. These are very timeless features in that quiet luxury look. And they're going to last a long time too. So the next wonderful design trend that I think is amazing for 2025 are these curated color pops. So what is this? So this is not an accent wall. Accent walls are definitely not coming back in style right now, but these are something where you have a wow factor, a single colorful piece in your room, and it can be a larger piece. It's just not going to be an accent wall. Some of popular colors that are trending right now are things like persimmon, as well as ultramarine, and then dusty mauve and wasabi green. This could be something like a very funky statement chair, or maybe it is a really cool lamp that has this bright burst of color. It also could just be something you add through art, like having a very large statement art piece that has that beautiful color in it. One of the next 2025 trends that I think is amazing because it's back in a big way from the past, and that would be Art Deco. Now, a lot of people may not be fans of this style. It is a little over the top, but designer Jean Liu told Dwell magazine, "We're craving romanticism and structure. Art Deco brings both without the fuss of traditional design." Some modern Art Deco pieces that really help embrace this style are things like brass and black finishes, as well as geometric tiles, and then archways and all kinds of arch forms, as well as lacquered furniture and very bold geometric shapes. You don't need to trick out your room and make it look like a great Gatsby set though. You can do things just like adding an Art Deco mirror maybe to your bathroom. Or you could get some geometric wallpaper and putting that in a powder room. Or you could do some really cool vintage inspired Art Deco style wall sconces or maybe a pendant lamp. And that's gonna really kick up your style a notch and add a lot of personality to your room. The other thing about Art Deco that I really love is it's something from the past that is now becoming popular again, and having timeless elements means that something that looks great in the past looks great today, and that's why using Art Deco to decorate your space is going to help give it a timeless look. If you are wanting to feel grounded in your space, this next one, which is our fifth gorgeous, wonderful design trend in 2025, is all about using an earthy color palette. If you are craving to have a cozy, warm, rich, layered, beautiful look to your room, earth tone color palettes are definitely a way to go. You can use colors like terracotta, rust, clay, or maybe it is a olive color, green, and even brown is definitely back in a big way here in 2025. Some people are calling brown is the new black for interiors, and they're using it in place of black when it comes to interior design. Brown feels like a big hug. It is definitely bold, it's definitely not boring, but it adds that earthiness to your room. It also helps echo some of those wood tones and goes with a lot of different wood colors, obviously. We're seeing brown all over the place in everything from a brown sofa to clay tone walls, as well as espresso stained wood and leather, believe it or not. And using these darker brown tones definitely pairs beautifully and timelessly with different finishes such as brass. You can start with one brown accent piece or anchor piece and really build out from there. Your space will definitely feel more rooted in earthiness and feel more lived in, and it's gonna be an amazing experience for you as well as your guests. And if you would like to see some more information on the latest and greatest interior design trends for 2025, make sure you watch this next video right here, and I'll see you in the next video.